because that's what will encourage us and our loved ones, our friends, our family, to adopt that growth mindset.
Who are you? And where are you going? What do you want? Together we'll find the ideal path on the Later Wow Show with your host, Kevin Bennell.
In episode 8 of season 2, I talked about Angela Duckworth's work on building grit. That is, passion and perseverance in pursuit of a long-term goal measured over years. 2 of the ways we build grit are through a work ethic and through having a growth mindset. And probably the person who's most in tune with how we develop a growth mindset is Professor Carol Dweck. I'm going to read you just a short biography of Professor Dweck. So, since 2004, she's been the Lewis and Virginia Eaton Professor of Psychology at Stanford University. She also has held professorships at the University of Illinois, Harvard, and Columbia. That's pretty gold-plated. In a career spanning almost 50 years, she has investigated how we view ourselves and then use those conceptions to guide our lives. Her seminal book is called Mindset, The New Psychology for Success. It was first published in 2006, and it stands as the seminal work on how we develop a growth mindset. And in fact, from the time I finished that book until today, I have a page from the book that I Xeroxed and put on my bathroom mirror that I look at every single morning. So we're going to take a look at a video in which Professor Dweck talks about how you develop a growth mindset, why it's important. But first, I'm going to mix myself up a cocktail. From my earliest drinking days, one of my favorite cocktails was the simple gin and tonic. It's very flavorful, it's light, it's easy to make. It's another type of highball, just for a spirits and a mixer. So for this segment, I'm gonna mix one up. I don't know if this is the correct way to do it, honestly, but I don't think it really matters. I start out, I just put a little ice in the glass. It's nice to have it cold. I'm going to use my favorite gin. This is Citadel. This is actually from France. I know gin is typically thought of as being from England, but this is such a nice, it has a nice citrusy flavor to it. I'm making it kind of light. I'm just going to use an ounce of gin, pour it over the ice. And then, you know, there's all kinds of tonic waters you can use. Each one's a little bit different. Schweppes is a great one, classic tonic water. You top it off with that. And then I like to have a nice little lime wedge in mine. And the best way to make a lime wedge, by the way, I learned not too long ago, is to take a slice of lime and then cut it in half. So you have the nice kind of fleshy part of the lime. Squeeze that in a little bit, drop it in, and there you have a gin and tonic. Let's go watch Professor Dweck. So as I mentioned in the intro, we're going to take a look at a short video by Carol Dweck. And in the video, she's going to talk about this idea of mindset and actually dig pretty deeply into it. So let's start off watching a segment while she talks about the 2 kinds of mindsets.
I learned of a high school in Chicago where students had to pass 84 units to graduate. And if they didn't pass, they got the grade not yet. I thought, isn't that wonderful? Because if you fail, you're nowhere. But if you get the grade not yet, you're on a learning curve. Not yet gave them a path into the future. And not yet also helped me understand a critical experience early in my career. To figure out how kids coped with challenge, I gave 10-year-olds some problems that were a little too difficult for them. Some of them reacted in a shockingly positive way. They said things like, "I love a challenge," or "I was hoping this would be informative." They understood that their abilities could grow through their hard work. They had what I call a growth mindset. But other children, for them it was tragic, catastrophic. From their more fixed mindset perspective, their core intelligence had been tested and devastated. Instead of the power of yet, they were gripped by the tyranny of now. So, what did they do next? In one study, after a failure on a test, they said they'd cheat next time instead of study more. In another study, they found someone who did worse than they did so they could feel better.
So this is where we want to start out. This idea of a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. That's really the core of Professor Dweck's work. So with a fixed mindset, when we're faced with a challenge, it's devastating. We can't meet it if we can't, it's devastating if we can't meet it. So with a fixed mindset, if we're faced with a challenge and we can't meet it, it's devastating. And everything seems to flow from there. We can't see beyond the present. We don't see that we have choice in the future, and so we're stuck right where we are. As opposed to with a growth mindset, so with this not yet attitude, what that means is if we keep working on it, if we try again, so then we can conquer the kinds of things that are challenging us, maybe not the first time out, maybe not even the 5th or the 6th time out, but the 10th time out or the 11th time out. As long as we keep at it, we can keep growing. That's really the central theme to everything we're going to be talking about in this segment. All right, so let's actually continue on from here.
Let's look at how that looks in the brain. Mosher and his colleagues measured from the brain as kids encountered errors. Processing the error shows up in red. If you look at the fixed mindset brain on the left, nothing is happening. But if you look at the growth mindset brain on the right, it's on fire with yet. They're processing the error deeply, learning from it, and correcting it.
So if you saw those two images, the sort of green image of the fixed mindset and the red image of the growth mindset. You know, we've been schooled our entire lives to think, you know, red bad, red stop. But from our brain standpoint, we want our minds on fire to have that drive to keep learning and growing, right? So we need to almost retrain ourselves. When we hit that point that we can't overcome the obstacle, we shouldn't see it as red. We should see obstacles as the go-ahead, right? And then we'll make our brains on fire and able to conquer whatever the challenge is. All right, so we're going to skip ahead now a little bit.
How can we build that bridge to yet? First, we can praise wisely. Our research shows that when we praise kids for the process they engage in, their hard work, their strategies, their focus, their perseverance, they learn that challenge seeking, they learn that resilience. Praising talent, praising intelligence makes them vulnerable.
So think about it. If we say to a child, or even we say to ourselves, "Oh, you're so talented," that means, well, we're naturally able to deal with the vicissitudes of life. We're naturally able to overcome problems. It's just something inherent in us. But it doesn't give us the ability to get over new challenges and strive forward for ever more growth, right? So for both our children and even ourselves, we need to praise not just effort, right? I'm not suggesting, giving gold stars just for showing up, but we need to praise repeated efforts to overcome and conquer a new task, a new idea, a new chore, right? We want to praise that in our children and in ourselves as well, because that's what will encourage us and our loved ones, our friends, our family, to adopt that growth mindset.
We also can change students' mindsets directly. In one study, we taught students that every time they pushed out of their comfort zone to learn something really, really hard and they stuck to it, the neurons in their brain could form new, stronger connections, and over time, they could become smarter. Those who learned this lesson showed a sharp increase in their grades. Those who did not showed a decrease. We have done this with thousands of students now across the country with similar results, especially for struggling students.
So this is, I think, the most crucial thing that Professor Dweck is going to talk about, and that is, how do we move from having a fixed mindset to having a growth mindset, right? So the process of a growth mindset is encounter an obstacle, learn from it, try again, repeat until that process is habituated. We just do it naturally, right? Now, why that process works is what Professor Dweck was just talking about now. So when we repeatedly engage in this growth mindset behavior, it creates new neuron connections in our brain. Okay? And by the way, although she's talking in the context of children, I've read in other sources the same thing happens for adults as well. So it's not as if, when we get older, somehow our neurons no longer connect. Maybe they're more stubborn, but we can still build new neuron connections even as we get older. And in fact, the studies I've read show that one of the ways that people can stave off some of the negative impacts of aging is to keep engaging in new activities, things they haven't done before, hobbies or even work that keep our minds active and stimulated, so we'll continue to make those new connections. Learning a foreign language is something that's often cited, right? So we can, as we build those new neuron connections, we're further ingraining in us the desire to pursue that growth mindset. Okay? All right, so let's move on to the next segment now.
And they did it because learning a growth mindset transformed the meaning of effort and difficulty. It used to mean they were dumb, and now it means they had a chance to get smarter. Difficulty just meant not yet.
Right. So you think about in the past, you tried something, maybe even tried it again, and you just couldn't get it. You said, I'm just dumb. So I have a very close friend who although being one of the smartest people I know, is convinced she can't do math. She says, I just can't do math, right? And the belief that we can't do something becomes self-reinforcing. Rather than saying, this is challenging, I can't do it yet, I need more practice, or maybe I need some coaching, or I need some help getting over this hurdle that I seem to keep hitting. The mindset is one of, I just can't do this thing. I'm dumb, I'm stupid, I'm all the self-criticisms that we make. Or even worse, when we put those criticisms on somebody else, our child, our spouse, our friends. Oh man, you're just dumb. You're never going to be able to do that. How many times have we said that? I'm really thinking about what impact that has on the individual. And I'll tell you, when I first read Professor Dweck's work, some of it seemed kind of Pollyanna-ish to me. And as much as I like the movie Pollyanna, to be frank, I don't like that kind of attitude. It comes off, I don't know, it kind of makes me get the willies. But it actually works. And that's the thing. It's just not worthwhile to call ourselves dumb or stupid. It serves no purpose to label our loved ones, especially our loved ones, as being, essentially permanently deficient in some area. We're much better off encouraging them to try again and again and again and again. And if we love them, we'll encourage them, an infinite number of times as they try and overcome those hurdles in pursuit of that growth mindset. And think of what a growth mindset in the people around you means for you. It means you've got people who are supporting you in finding your way to wow, in finding what you want out of life. That's why a growth mindset in the end is so important. Okay? So let's look at one more segment here.
Last year, I got a letter from a 13-year-old boy. He said, "Dear Professor Dweck, I read your book already. I like the fact that it was based on sound scientific research. That's why I decided to test out your growth mindset principles in 3 areas of my life. As a result, I'm earning higher grades. I have a better relationship with my parents. I have a better relationship with the other kids at school. I realize I've wasted most of my life." Let's not waste any more lives.
It's a perfect sum up. A 13-year-old was able to figure this out, put it to work in his life, and see how much better his life was, not just academically, but his interpersonal relationships improved as well. We can all do this. The process is simple. Try, and if we don't succeed that first time, learn our lessons from it and try again. And if we don't succeed that time, what's the new lesson? And try again. And just be determined to do that over and over and over again. Let's not waste the rest of our lives mired in a fixed mindset. Let's all adopt this really simple process of obtaining a growth mindset. If I could have you take away one concept from ever watching the Way to Wow show, it would be the importance of developing a growth mindset. Try something. If it doesn't work, learn a lesson and try again. We see it happening all the time in the military. It really happens anywhere where people are doing new things, creating new technology, making new entertainment. Most things don't work the first time. If we let them crush us, we'll never find our way to wow. Courage at all times, my friends. Marie, you're still my belle.